Good to see you all here. Feels like spring is coming. Yeah. But you know what'll happen. She'll smack us around.
What did Phil say this morning? Time. He said
Today, yeah, that's right, Groundhog Day. That's when Jesus came out of the tomb, saw a shadow, and went back in. Visitors, do we have any visitors this morning? Okay. Announcements, any announcements? Derek.
Just to remind the men in the group this morning, this Tuesday, right?
Yes, Tuesday.
This Tuesday is the next men's group meeting. 10 o'clock at the Polk County Library. Most of you know that by now, but just to remind you, because Dawn, you still have some money, don't forget. You got to take him by the hand and bring him in from outside. 10 o'clock on Tuesday.
Thank you, Derek. And the women are you all meeting too, right? Yes. Tuesday.
the second, yeah.
Okay, second Tuesday. And where do
On
you?
Wednesday,
Second Wednesday, and where do you meet?
Cardinal Coffee in Landon.
Cardinal Coffee in Landon. Okay, at 10 o'clock.
No, 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock, okay. All right.
Read the newsletter.
There will be a test afterwards.
Okay. Well, it is good to see all of you here this morning. Just a few things I want to say, and I've been meaning to say this, but just not. And that just I want to thank Derek and Becky for their input in terms of music, and Annie and Christine. In my thinking, music is the highest expression of the human spirit, in my opinion, music. And I just can't think of the service without music. So I want to thank them for Becky and Derek playing all the music for Sunday morning. The music we do up here, they play that, and put a lot of work into that. So I want to thank them. And I want to thank Lisa because she puts together the PowerPoint every Sunday. And sometimes I throw things at her at the last minute. So can you put this in? For example, this morning, you're going to see an ancient mother goddess. And I think it was yesterday or the day before, I texted her and said, can you put this in? She goes, yeah, done. So thank you for doing all that. And while I'm at it, thank all of you for being here. It's good to see all of you. I hope you're feeling well today, this morning, and enjoying life as best you can under the circumstances. But we won't go there. The care team, we're still forming the care team, but we've already had a request from a member, visitor who contacted Elisa about some fallen limbs in her yard, and Elisa and Thomas are going to take care of that for us. So we're forming the care team. If you have something that you think they need to know about, let's see, we have Ellen. Who else is on the care team? Jeannie, Anita. Okay, so we're forming that care team. Okay, I believe that's it for the announcements. Any other?
What do you want?
Prelude.
Oh, the prelude. I thought I had just played it. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. You probably were playing it and I stopped you.
Okay.
O spinner, weaver of our lives, your loom is love. May we who are gathered here be empowered by that love to weave new patterns of truth and justice into a web of life that is strong, beautiful, and everlasting.
This is a short reading from John Donne, who was a British poet, roughly contemporary with Shakespeare, just to give you a sense of when that was 17th century British literature. He was quite a guy, and he lived early life was a little bit racy. But then he settled down and became an important cleric. In fact, he became Dean of St. Paul's Cathedral, which is a way out there position in the Anglican Church. So before I do the reading, which some of you, it's only a paragraph long, so I won't keep you here all morning, but before you, I'm going to have to read and hold my glasses on, just speak more loudly. Before you hear this important reading, I have a poem of John Donne's for you. It only has 6 words in it, so it's not going to keep us forever. And I have to explain that in his wilder years, he and his girlfriend turned out to have to get married, which can happen, as you all know. And he wrote a 6-line poem about that. And I asked Ernie if I could say it to you before the service because, well, you'll see. The poem, his name was John Donne, her name was Ernie. The poem goes, John Donne, and done, undone. So now the reading, which is, as I said, Ernie said I could tell you that joke, so I cleared it first. He's talking about the fact that back in those years, bells rang for, for weddings, church bells rang, and for funerals, and for all kinds of things. So he says, who bends not his ear to any bell which upon any occasion rings? But who can remove it from that bell, which is not passing a piece of himself out of this world? No man is an island entire of himself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. If a clod be washed away by the sea, Europe is the less. Just as if a promontory were. Every man's death diminishes me, for I am involved in mankind, and therefore never send to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee.
Thank you, Derek. Join with me, please. We light this chalice for the light of truth. We light this chalice for the warmth of love. We light this chalice for the energy of action. We light this chalice for the harmony of peace. Our opening hymn is number 298, Be Thou My Vision. And we're just sing the 3 verses that are there. Here in this space, some have come in pain. To those who are dealing with issues of health, we pray, we wish for courage and healing. Some of you have come with joy bubbling in your heart. May we rejoice together, remembering the wisdom that says joys are multiplied when shared. May we remember gratitude for warmth, thankfulness for sunshine and rain. Here in this space, we are called to weave the web of human community. And in the complexities of community, it is right in this space that we pause and hold gently all concerns, named and unnamed, that are gathered in this room today. Please feel free to share a joy or a sorrow. Raise your hand and Nick will give you the microphone.
Well, Ernie kind of stole my thunder a few minutes ago when he mentioned Becky and Derek, because last night I was thinking about, I really want to make sure that I'm finding my joy, because you can get really down a deep rabbit hole right now with things. And I thought, coming here helps me find my joy, because everyone in this room offers a wonderful talent or a wonderful perspective to help us find our joy. And I thought, if we called out everybody, it would take the whole service, and I'm not going to usurp Ernie's role doing that. But there are a few people that I want to mention today, and as we go forward, I'll mention some others. But I want to talk about our board, because we have a great board in place. And for those of you who come and don't have much interaction with the board, you probably don't know that everybody on the board contributes a lot of time and a lot of energy to making sure that things go well here in the fellowship. For example, Christine is our vice president, and she volunteers to do whatever we need to do. And she has been a one-woman care team for a while, but we're getting her some help now so that all that does not fall on her. But when we needed to expand people who were going to assist with music, who was the first one to sign up? Christine. So we thank you very much for that. Our secretary, Janice. She really stays on top of the details, and when we're having board meetings, if I let something slide off the agenda, she will say to me, oh, don't forget, we need to talk about. So she really stays on top of it. And in addition to her wonderful eye for detail with what's going on with the board, she is a wonderful animal advocate, and her heart is so filled with love for animals, and she really helped me a few weeks ago when we ended up with a new creature at our house. So thank you very much, Janice. Our newest board member is Don, and we all know Don because he does all our group communication, and we really appreciate it. And y'all don't know how many times Don has to email us and say, hey, what's going on with this, or what's going on with that, so he can get it in the newsletter. So I appreciate his follow-up. I appreciate his wit, and I appreciate his wonderful talent with the newsletter. I think we could compare our newsletter to any group in the nation, and it would be right up there, number one. So thank you very much, Don. Our treasurer, sitting in the back, some of you may not know that I'm married to the treasurer. So there are pros and cons to them. The pro is I always know what's going on with the finances. The con is I always know what's going on with the finances. Because in our house, we have a little joke. Don't ask John what time it is, because he'll tell you how to make a watch. And so, but we appreciate his attention to detail with the finances, and he's really worked really hard to stay on top of that and make sure that we're making our contributions as we should, and making sure we have enough money to operate the fellowship. And last but certainly not least on our board is Ernie, and he brings such a wonderful, calm presence to our board meetings and helps us make good decisions. And we are so blessed that he gives us his time and his talent and his willingness to drive down the mountain twice a month to serve our fellowship. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa.
I'm going to step out and turn around so I don't have my back to you. I'll tell you about my brother. He's been in the hospital for 2.5 weeks. Had part of his lung removed a few days ago. Not that you know him, and we get different messages every day from the doctor about how things are going. So we're very concerned. He's younger than I am. He just turned 60 recently. And so I'm very, very concerned, and I've been at the hospital a lot. I wanted to come and see your bright and shiny faces this morning because it does make me feel better, and it has made me feel better already, so thank you for that. But just to say, if I'm sometimes not here now or sometimes not participating as much or seem to be kind of in a mood, I want you to understand that it's not about you, and appreciate you all keeping us in your hearts.
Tell us his name, Anita.
Eric, E-R-I-C, same last name as mine.
Thank you.
Well, perhaps, Anita, this will bring you some hope. Today's our year anniversary of David having his lung surgery, and so far, so good.
Well, I missed all of you the last few months. We had a complicated holiday season, good complication, just family going all in different directions. And then the last few weeks, I was asked by my university, which I still work part-time for, to bring a group of college students down to Costa Rica. And we missed all the cold weather here. That sounds wonderful. Here was the part, though. I was the only one of a group of 13 who was over 21. So that adds a little complication to this. But I think what was most impressive about it was thinking of our song, keeping the vow, kept the vow to our interconnected creation. It was a course on sustainability and the energy that these young people brought to it was inspiring, considering, again, the challenges that we face going forward. So it's good to see all of you again, and sorry for our absence. I'm glad to be back.
Thank you, Ian. Maybe you'll take a group of us down there one day.
And I wanted to report that sometimes my partner, Leonard, comes and enjoys the service, but he does have another church that he also visits with his friends. But the good news that I'm bringing today is that Leonard fell, even though he did fall and break his thigh bone 2 days before Christmas at my home. He's responding so well to therapy, and he has a wonderful attitude at his 92 years of age, a wonderful attitude of recovery, despite the fact that he's also battling with bone cancer. So anyway, Leonard will be back one of these days. Thank you.
Thank you, Annie.
Yes, I'm appreciative of all these people on the board who are not the president, but also want to say thank you to Elisa for herding these cats and just inspiring them and helping us deliver our mission well. Thank you.
When I first started going to UU ministers meetings, they talked about herding cats, but over time it changed into herding border collies.
In my defense, I must say that time is a very complex issue. And when someone asks what time it is, I want to be extremely precise. So thank you very much. And yes, I can build a watch.
I think we would be remiss if we didn't also call out Ellen Thomas, for recording our sessions every day.
I have two cousins in parts of America, and they told me not long ago, they said, we watch your service on YouTube. May we pause. May our shared silence be a blessing on our hearts, on this community, and may this blessing extend outward to grace the wider world.
Sing along if you can. There's a full moon over and down, and down to this end. Who's to say you have to lose for someone else to win? In the eyes of all the people, the look is much the same. First and just the last one, when you play a deadly game. It's about time we realize it. We're all in this together. It's about time we find out. All of us or none. It's about time we recognize it. Changes in the weather. It's about time. It's about changes. It's about time. There's a light like a window for all the world to see. Boy skies in the wilderness, sometimes it means to me. I suppose I love him most of all when he kneels to kiss the land. The stitches on our mother's dress makes it strongest, and it's about time to start to see it. The earth is our only home. It's about time we start to face it. Voices in the alone. It's about time we start to listen to the voices in the wind. It's about time. It's about change. It's about time. There's a man who is my brother. I just don't know his name, but I know his home and because I know we feel the same. And it hurts me when he's hungry and when he's chewing proud. I too am a father. That little one is mine. It's about time we begin it. Turn the world around. It's about time we start to live it. The thing we've always known. It's about time we start to live it. Family of man. It's about time. It's about change. It's about time. It's about peace. It's about plenty. It's about time. It's about you and me together. It's about time. Yes, that is dedicated to time. To Tom and his time. Interest.
It's only time.
It's always time.
Whoa. Did I do that? So our principle, our last principle, number 7, last but not least, if you want to find that principle, it's 7 pages in on your hymnal, but I'll tell you what it says. As Unitarian Universalists, we affirm and promote the interdependent web of existence of which we are a part. And that last word is not one word apart, but 2 words apart. Good, you got that. That's a very important thing to note. The difference between being a part of something and being separate from it. Apart from it, the one word, apart from it, and then the word two words are part of it. So it's important to keep that in mind as we think about this principle, the interdependent web. Really kind of a modern phrase for a very primitive, I say primitive, I don't mean that in a pejorative way, but a very ancient way of thinking about the world we live in. And rather than think about it as primitive, I would rather think about it as natural, a natural worldview, as opposed to a scientific worldview or a mechanistic worldview. A very, very old, ancient view about the world, feeling about the world that not only exists in our distant past among our distant ancestors, but also deep in the psyche of every one of us. When you go back in time to mythologies, you're also going back into the deeper layers of the human psyche. All these things, we've not outgrown these ways of thinking. They just become repressed in our psyches. So whenever you read myth, you're also reading about the human psyche, which makes sense to say our dreams and mythologies are very similar. What we dream and mythologies are very similar because they're coming from the depths. So you may have a dream of an animal that talks to you. You say, well, that's weird. Well, it wouldn't have been so weird for our distant ancestors because they communicated with the life around them, because they felt this oneness of life. They didn't feel apart, separate from it, but they felt that they were part of it. So this notion of the interdependent web of existence is really nothing new. It's been around for ages. And the further back we go in time to those so-called natural primitive mythologies, we find it. We have an example of that in the words of Chief Seattle and in some of the words we just read in our hymnal. And I copied that. This is, most of you probably know this from Chief Seattle's letter to Washington, and I've kind of condensed it. But I'm going to read you these words and then give you some thoughts about them, and then give you a moment to respond if you'd like. This was written in 1854 by Chief Seattle. The president in Washington sends word that he wishes to buy our land. But how can you buy or sell the sky, the land? The idea is strange to us. And just think, that idea is strange to him. But the idea that we don't have private property on the land is strange to us. Because private property is core to a capitalistic society. And if you don't know this, our Declaration of Independence, life started out with life, liberty, and the pursuit of property. Go back. Life, liberty, pursuit of property. So why this pursuit of property? Property made you who you were. You could not vote if you didn't have property, the ownership of the land. So it's just as hard for us to think the way he's thinking as it is for him to think the way we think. This is my land. No. So when you own property, you could say to yourself, this is not my land. I'm borrowing it for a little bit, but it's not mine. But we don't think like that. We buy, we sell the land. It's a big part of who we are. And to be in England in the old days, to be of the nobility meant that you were a landowner. In Roman times, if you didn't own property, you weren't considered human. So we think about him feeling strange about us think about how we feel strange about what he's saying to us today. If we do not own the freshness of the air and the sparkle of the water, how can you sell them? Every part of this earth is sacred to my people. Every shining pine needle, every humming insect, all are holy in the memory and experience of my people. Now let me pause for a moment and talk about the notion of holiness and sacredness. Because our mythologies, the mythologies of the Western world, divide the world between the holy and the unholy. So we have this little holy world over here, and then the unholy world. We have this sacred world, and we have this profane world. I remember one time in the Methodist church, I decided I would play Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer for a song, worship service song, and somebody came up afterwards and said, that's a secular song, it doesn't belong in the church. So we have this secular world, and there's a big sign on it, and it says, God, do not trespass. You know, we've sealed off this world, and then we have this sacred world. Don't think like that if you're thinking from Chief Seattle's point of view. All things are holy. There is no this dualism that our mythologies have framed the world. This dualism doesn't exist for them. Everything's holy. Even rattlesnakes. They all have a place. You know, even wolves in Yellowstone Park. Some years ago, you may remember this, they said, let's get rid of all the dangerous animals that are a danger to humans. You know what they did? They killed off the wolves in Yellowstone. You remember that?
Yes.
Killed all the wolves. Remember what happened?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. The aspen trees, the little baby aspen trees died. Why'd they die? Because the elk were eating the leaves. The elk were eating the leaves because there was no animal to keep the elk population from growing, i.e. no wolves. So you know, that mentality, we're going to kill everything that's a danger to humans because it's just bad. So I mean, this is the way we think. So again, everything is holy. The world is sacred. Everything is holy. Everything is sacred. We know the sap which courses through the trees, as we know the blood that courses through our veins. We are part of the earth, and it is part of us. Now there you get your whole. We're just part of this whole. The bear, the deer, the great eagle, these are our brothers. The rocky crest, the juices in the meadow, the body heat, the pony and man, all belong to the same family. The shining water that moves in the streams and rivers is not just water, but the blood of our ancestors. If we sell you our land, you must remember that it is sacred. Remember that the air is precious to us, that the air shares its spirit with all the life it supports. The wind that gave us our grandfather his first breath also receives his last sigh. Will you teach your children what we have taught our children, that the earth is our mother? Now that's not a figure of speech. He's not saying that to sound poetic. It's a reality. The earth is a living, sustaining being with a life. And you feel that. You just don't think it in your head as a figure of speech, but you sense that everything you do to this body, you're doing to your mother. So we throw that term around like it's a figure of speech, but it's not. For them, there's a deep, deep, deep connection between everything of the earth. Earth is our mother. What befalls the earth befalls the sons of the earth. This we know, the earth does not belong to man, man belongs to earth. All things are connected like the blood that unites us all. Man did not weave the web of life. He is merely a strand of it. Whatever he does to the earth, to the web, he does to himself. We love this earth as a newborn loves its mother's heartbeat. There's the mother again. As we are part of the land, you two are part of the land. The earth is precious to us. It is also precious to you. Okay, if I was to gather all these feelings and thoughts together and put them in a symbol, that symbol would be what's called the Great Mother Goddess. And hopefully, yeah, there she is. She reigned on this earth for thousands of years before male gods came around. She's the epitome, the essence, the quintessence of this feeling that this planet is living, this planet is alive. She contains in her body all of life, and all of life came from her. And that's only one image. If you go online, there are thousands of images of the Great Mother Goddess. If you're interested in reading about her, there's a book by Eric Newman called The Great Mother Goddess. But she reigned, and she symbolizes, she's a perfect symbol of that. That deep, deep connection that we felt with all of life around us, that we weren't a part of it, we were a part of it. So she represents that wholeness that we're all part of. And the idea that you can't separate something from the whole. If you do, that it no longer exists. It no longer has any being. I have a program I did at the college when I taught there on the Great Mother Goddess to the students at the college. It didn't go over too well. Because it's kind of a direct counter to these warrior mythologies that I'll talk about in just a moment. But she reigns in the world of the past. She reigns in the deep layers of our psyche. She's in the deep layers of our psyche, the substrata of all our thinking. There's a triptych. You know, a triptych is one of those things. It's like this, and then you fold it out into three. There's a triptych that was made of, on the outside it had Mother Mary holding baby Jesus, and he's holding a ball of the earth. Well, you open that triptych up to look inside Mary's body, and lo and behold, there's God, there's Jesus, there's the saints. And did you know that triptych was condemned? Because it implies that Mary's the mother of God. So you know that those feelings kind of creep back in when we try to repress them. Those feelings kind of come back, and we quickly put them down. So what happened to this Great Mother Goddess? Well, I'm going to give you the shortest answer I can. Otherwise, we'd be here for a long time. Well, she was hacked in pieces. She was hacked in pieces. She was cut up in pieces. And so the attempt was to destroy not only her symbol and image, but everything associated with it. And it happened when these conquering male warriors came down from the north, for their swords, and they began their hacking and cutting. And we find that in one of the oldest mythologies from the so-called high civilization of the Babylonians, in their mythology. And I've told you this mythology before, you may have related it to you. And this mythology is called Enuma Elish, which is translated into the words in the beginning. So this is a myth about the creation of the world. But it's radically different from the Great Mother Goddess thinking. In this mythology, Marduk is the great god of the Babylonians. And he is sent out to slay the female dragon Tiamat. Now, you've got to understand that anytime one nation conquers another nation, it demonizes their religion. When any nation conquers another nation, it demonizes their religion. I mean, we did that to the religion of the Native American Indians. We demonized their religion. And if you know anything about Joseph Campbell, he talks about killing all the buffalo of the Plain Indians, and that was their sacred animal. And you see this throughout history. You know, when any nation, when these conquering nations came down from the north, these with their male warrior gods, and conquered the land of in the Middle East, Asia, they demonized whatever was there, you know. And when I was in South Africa some years ago, a bishop came to a youth conference, and it was African people, and the youth asked the bishop, what happened to our native religions of Africa? And he really couldn't give them an answer except to say that they were all demonic. So I mean, that happens. You know, you conquer somebody, you demonize their religion. Well, that's what happened here. These male warriors that come down from the north with their swords, and they slash and they cut and they kill. Before we destroyed the Great Mother Goddess, though, we had to demonize her. And so Marduk goes out to face the dragon Tiamat. He slays her with his sword, and he cuts her body in half. And with half of her body, he makes the earth, and the other half, he makes the heavens. So now we have this great dualism that we live in. You know, there's the earth, and there's the heaven. And the earth, the heaven is the good place where God is, and the earth is the bad place where all the evil people are. The world of Satan. It's sort of dualism, you know. It's impacted Western psyche for so long. So Genesis, the biblical story, is based on the Middle East, but it sort of tries to demythologize it a little bit. Because if you know anything about the book of Genesis, it opens with the formless void. And the word for formless void in Hebrew is tiham, which sounds a lot like Tiamat. So God's going to take this formless void, and with the sword of his word, he's going to hack it into pieces and make all these separations. All the chapters, the opening of Genesis, of divisions and separations. And it ends with human beings at the apex. Dominant species. And the idea that it's all created for man. It's all created for man. Man is separate from it. Man is a freestanding, independent, autonomous being that stands apart from creation. If you know anything, I taught the Bible for 10 years, so I know a little bit about it. But in the book of Hebrews, we're told that the Word of God is sharper than any two-edged sword. So instead of this sword, you've got this word that's just hacking and hacking and hacking everything to pieces. Separations, divisions. here's the human kingdom, here's the animal kingdom, here's the plant kingdom. That way of thinking is absolutely foreign to the Native American Indian way of thinking. You know, if we go back in time and ask a primitive to tell you the difference between a human and an animal, he would not only not be able to answer your question, he or she wouldn't understand it. You know? And if you've ever felt a deep connection with an animal, a dog or a cat or anything, you know, you're there, you know that feeling, you know, that this animal is not really an animal. And I'm not really a human. That at this feeling level, you know, at this feeling level, we feel that connection today. So if this principle really is nothing new. Now, you should know by now that I really don't like these creation stories from the high civilization. And I don't like the damage that they've caused for thousands of years in the human psyche and in the way we treat each other, and the way we treat the animal world, the way we treat the plant world, or even the chemicals of the earth, you know. And I think this way of thinking, of the native way of thinking, natural way of thinking, is making a comeback today. I think we're beginning to realize that we are not this freestanding, autonomous, independent ego that we think we are. That we have this deep connection with all of life. And what we do to the web, we do to ourselves. What we do to that web, we're doing to ourselves. And it looks like we're on such a materialistic pathway now that we're destroying it. But my hope is that we're going to take a different direction and go down a more spiritual pathway instead of a materialistic pathway. Now, unfortunately, and I'm going to get a little bit political here, but I won't stay political, I promise you. We have a leader in our country who, these are the words that come out of his mouth: we're all going to get rich. We're all going to be rich now. While the earth burns beneath our feet and the land is washed away by the waters, we're all going to be rich. So we got our work cut out for us. I want to show you this one. I'm not a physicist, but this is from field physics. But I came across this other day when I was reading about physics. I don't know anything about it much, but I was really intrigued by this concept of field physics, because I think it's just a different way of phrasing the interdependent web of existence. And here's the quote: "What we call a field is no longer a group of physical things, but an expression of physical relations, connections. When from these relations we single out certain elements, it never means that we can actually separate them as isolated structures, like the ego. Each of these elements is conditioned by the whole to which it belongs. In fact, it is defined through this whole. We are defined through the whole. You and I, we're defined through the whole of whatever you want to call it, the great mother goddess, the earth, the interdependent web of existence. We're defined by that whole. We're not separate, autonomous, isolated egos like we think we are. And I'm guilty of that as anybody else, you know. It's me, it's my house, my spouse, my car, my land, my money, my. So, I mean, that's where we are. We need to change that. In fact, it's defined through this whole, it is no longer possible to separate an individual from the field. Now, this is physics. This is not talking about human life. This is talking about the physical environment. It is no longer possible to separate an individual from the whole, from the field. The field is made of invisible threads. We may see the effects, but the process is beyond our vision. You know, even coming out of physics, I think that's a beautiful statement, you know. And it just reiterates the idea that, you know, we're not separate. We're part of creation. What can we do? You know, that's the first question. What can I do? You know, I can take a little drop and drop it in a bucket. You know, so, you know, my wife hangs out our clothes. We've turned off all the heat in all the rooms except our den. We're hunkered down in our den. We try not to use plastics. And listen, please listen, I'm not saying anyone in here has to do any of that. You do what you think is right, what feels good to you. If every person drops a little drop in that bucket, and 1 million people drop 1 million drops in that bucket's going to fill up. So what can I do? What can we do? It doesn't matter. Some little something you can do, even if it's that much, do it. You know, do it. So I'll leave you with that thought. And praise be to the great Mother Goddess. Amen.
Amen.
We are growing side by side. We will rise all together. We will rise. When the sun rain upon us, not a road shall be denied. We will rise all together. We will rise. We will rise like the ocean. We will rise like the sun. We will rise all together, we will rise. In our many colored fabrics, made from strands of common thread, we will rise all together, we will rise. From our children to our elders, from all nations we will rise. We will rise all together, we will rise. For all our differences, enhance our common ties. We will rise all together, we will rise. We will rise like the ocean, we will rise like the sun. We will rise all together, we will rise. We will grow of families strengthened by our common threads. We will rise all together, we will rise. We will rise like the ocean, we will rise like the sun. We will rise all together, we will rise. We will build a global family strengthened by our common threads. We will rise all together, we will rise.
Does anyone have any comments, queries, or opposing viewpoints they'd like to offer this morning before we skedaddle out of here?
Thank you. Can you hear me? Thank you, Ernie, for your sermon. I wanted to talk to you about a special book that I read recently, and it's a contemporary book, which I loved, and it's called Breeding Sweetgrass. You may have heard about it?
Yes.
And it's written by a Native American scientist. And she talks about the integration of all the flora and fauna in the earth and how it makes us live and how it appears to help our universe and people in it and benefits everybody. And it's based on old Indian principles. So it's a wonderful reading book, and it's called Breeding Sweetgrass. And I think the author's name is Kilmer.
Okay.
His name is Kilmer.
All right, thank you, James. There's also a video by Hopi elder Vernon Masayasva called The Four Worlds, but it's a little bit kind of scary what he says there. Rich, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, while we're doing book reviews, I have one of my own. Becky and I just finished reading a book, which we're going to then have our book groups read on this very matter, what Chief Zell talked about. It has to do just briefly with a group of indigenous people in the Amazon basin, which is being raped for a long time now by oil companies for our lifestyle and also for meat, for cattle grazing. So there's nothing new about the Amazon Valley being raped. This book is about a group of people who are indigenous people who live down there, a little like the Indians that you've been talking about this morning, Ernie. And they just recently, be a spoiler alert now for the book, they won a major lawsuit. These indigenous people, the author is one of them, a woman who led the legal effort. They won a lawsuit against oil companies and saved 500,000 acres of the Amazon forest, upon which we depend very much for our air. So there are lots of books of that sort coming out, and I recommend, it's called We Will Be Jaguars, and that has to do with some belief systems that they have, a little like what you saw from Ernie this morning. So anyway, that's one more book and one more effort that is going a long way toward what needs to be done. It's more than, it's a drop in the bucket in some ways, Ernie, but it's much more than that. Book review
Way over there. Thank you, Derek.
Speaking of a drop in the bucket, I was thinking about how, our legislators are, some of them are just kind of wrecking democracy. One half of them are wrecking democracy. But many times I've thought about when I write to a legislator or call, I'm usually either complaining or, the legislators that represent us. I'm trying to convince them to do the right thing, it never works. But it occurs to me that if more of us supported the ones that are trying to do something, trying to really be the opposition to what's happening right now, even if they're not in our district. Hakeem Jeffries said something pretty strong the other day, and immediately the Republicans came out and said, that's a terrible thing to say. It's like, really? So I think when someone does stand up and supports what really should be happening or calls out what is happening, that we maybe need to call their office or write them an email and say, right on, thank you. The more of us do it, it's like a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
The more of us do it, the more power they will have, I think.
Thank you. Yes, very good point. To show them our appreciation and support. Yeah. That's a good one. Okay, I'll close with these words. We receive fragments of holiness, glimpses of eternity, brief moments of insight. Let us gather them up for the precious gifts that they are, and renewed by their grace, move boldly into the unknown. Thank you.